Good evening, folks, and welcome to another session from the Wise Asylum. Of course, the Shadow England is busy tonight, keeping everybody occupied, and that's definitely understandable. And of course, I hope they win. I don't know what they're doing, I've took no notice, so I've no idea. If there's a score, let me know. Right, tonight is probably one of the most important Sunday sermons ever. And I'll tell you for why. Because tonight we're going to realise why we've all been made to despise the Vatican. And for how long this has been going on. You're looking back to the Salian times, originally, when they started to introduce the surname. And that came through the Anglo-Saxons, apparently. Of course, the history in relation to, was it the Anglo-Saxons that built England, is very, very dubious, because it removes all knowledge of the Trojans. Because when you look at the Anglo-Saxon side of things, originally it was London Vic, and it was a slave port for the Anglo-Saxons, or the Saxons as they would have been called. And when you look at the coinage that they used, which was the first coinage really that we saw on the British Isles, it's only found in London Vic and in Norfolk and one or two small areas on the east coast of southern England. So I'm saying Anglo-Saxon because that's what's being cited, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that is the case. But the simple fact is, the Vatican, what it was before it was taken over or conjoined with the Jewish tradition, held our name in Christ on our behalf and enforced the rights of that name. Remember what Jesus said, in my name you will be saved. And people don't know what that means. They think they're to keep talking and mentioning the word Jesus. What utter nonsense. I've said this before. If you worship a man, an idol, a thing, you are missing the message. So, originally, well, let's start with this. At the moment, as you're probably aware, there's a major battle going on for the soul of the Vatican. And it's been kicked off by Archbishop Vigano. And most people think, who gives a toss? It doesn't matter a shit. We don't like that crap anyway. Right, well, this is how important it is that you start to pay attention, because as it stands, the Vatican is the means of taking our estates and handing it over to the Jewish system, the Noahide Trust. Yeah, we've appointed that to a Jesuit creation within the Vatican. I see no reason to disbelieve that. And of course now we have a Jesuit claiming to be the Pope, which of course he certainly isn't. Now I've been keeping my eye, not particularly this week, so I've been rather busy with some law stuff, but the 2 weeks previously I've been following what's actually going on between Archbishop Vigano and the Vatican. Now of course the Vatican has excommunicated Archbishop Vigano. But what you're starting to see is that Archbishop Vigano has actually got quite a lot of Catholics in the Vatican on side. So this is not some kind of out of the blue move. This is a considered move, because clearly these people know that this is the last chance corral of taking back the Vatican on your behalf. Now, if you are a Christian, it doesn't matter what denomination you think you are, go back to what I said before, in my name you will be saved. It's not the word Jesus, okay? It's not Yeshua. It's not about him. It's the symbolic tradition that in giving you a given name, a Christian name, you will be saved from the Babylonian system. Because the Babylonian system in its entirety operates on a surname. So what I'm saying in that is that the Vatican, as it was, when it was a church proper, held in trust your given name, your name in Christ. There's your christening. Okay, that's where it cements that your given name is held by the Vatican, and they will enforce your rights in Christ. The infallibility of the Pope came on the back of that knowledge. That while the Pope and the Church was in sync with the doctrines afforded to the man, then the Pope was infallible in everything he did, everything he said, which is why the entire Church had to follow suit. Now, since the introduction of what we know to be the Venetians, or basically Babylon getting on the European landmass, there's been a battle going on between Eastern Rome and Western Rome, and the pivotal point of being the Venetians, who are the black nobility. These are the people that claim origin from Iran or Persia. Okay, so they're not the Aryans, they are the Persians. We think they're talking about the Aryans because we understand that the Aryans actually had influence in Persia, but this is way before the Persians became the Persians, as it were. Now, interesting, we've gone through, not in depth, but we've gone through the idea that actually the battles that were going on between Israel, the Israelites and the Judahites, was no such thing, that actually that battle was going on in Egypt, and it was between the northern Egyptians and the Hyksos, the shepherd kings. So from that, before the Assyrians attacked northern Egypt, they fled out. I would suggest became the Minoan power base, which was on Crete, which is scarce as information in relation to the Minoans, very feminine as a tradition, and perhaps the northern Egyptians had created that base there many moons before all this shenanigans kicked off between the invading Hyksos and those that were settled in northern Egypt. And because it's clearly it was originally, Crete was a place of royalty. And of course, as the Israelites, as they are called, Isis Ra El traditionists, shifted out of northern Egypt and became the Greek civilization, the Spanish civilization, Albion, which is the British Isles, the Druids, the Norse, the Scythians. They're the scattered tribes across Europe. Now, the man came to preach against the temple, which had been created from Babylon under King Cyrus by the captives. And this is the very temple that the man came to preach against, because that was the trap. They were trapping everybody in commerce, and he came to preach against it. Now you can see substantive sort of evidence to support that in the fact that Paul, after he preached in the Middle East, went off to Spain to preach to the Israelites, the lost of that area, as it were. So that aside, what we're saying is with Jesus is you look at we've looked at the Gospels, we've looked at it from an astrological standpoint, we've looked at it as a chemical standpoint, and we've looked at it from a law standpoint. Yeah, walking on water, walking on the sea of commerce, waking the dead up, i.e. people that are thick and stupid and fixed into this Babylonian system. He awakened them, the blind to be able to see. There's the symbolism. If and when you start to realize and understand what this tradition is really all about, and that things changed during and after the Crusades, in my opinion, hoity-toity over there to the Crusades, which were started by the Comnene in Byzantium, not Western Rome, the Arian system. The Crusaders brought back the energies from the East as opposed to doing anything good over there for Europe as a spiritual thing, in the same way as now they've pulled Islam over here, we've brought the jinn here onto our lands. Okay? And their power is growing because it's growing in the unseen also. But of course we know that they are just a broom for this commercial system. Now, it's very important that people start to recognise that no matter what you believe now and what you've believed for all your life and what your parents and your grandparents believed, this has been going on for nearly 1,000 years. And they've changed the idea of what Rome was completely. You worship a name Jesus because that's what you think. In my name you will be saved means. It doesn't. It means use your Christian name and don't take on a surname. Because the surname is the trap. Once the Vatican merged with the Jewish system, then the surname came into play. And that's the perpetual instrument. The Holy Spirit of the mimic system, which opposes the Christian name and has trapped the Christian name to its own system. Do you understand this, what I'm saying to you? I'm breaking this down as simple as I can. But the more you're fixed into the fake tradition of Christianity, the more difficult it's going to be for you to reckon with what it is I'm saying to you today. I understand this. However, there's nothing I can do apart from speak the truth of the matter. You know, I can't make it easier for people, but you've got to understand something. Know thyself. And last week I kept annoying everybody by calling everybody stupid. There's a reason behind that, and that is because I'm only preaching what I know works, and that is this. Not until the days, way back in the mist of time, that I started to recognise how stupid I had been, how ignorant I had been, could I expand my awareness. It's impossible. There are many traditions out there. There's the Buddhist, there's the Muslim, there's the Judaism, there's Christianity as a doctrine that you know. There's the Sanskrit, there's the Norse, there's the Native American. There's all these different traditions out there. And all of them are based in some kind of sensibility, otherwise it wouldn't work. But ultimately, they are traditions outside of yourself. Now, that doesn't mean to say you can't look into one for a while and take on what is good about it. But the thing is, there's another path less travelled on this earth. And unless you travel in it, you'll never understand it. You'll never see it because you can only see it through your own limitations. You can't see it. It's impossible. This is why it's difficult for people to describe it. Because it's being described, but only people that know the path can hear it, can hear the words. Only people that are on the path have the eyes to see the path. These are old, ancient proverbs that are there for a reason. When you're limited, your mind is limited. You can only see within that limitation. And I've offered up an idea in relation to what's happened in that we've been fixed beneath the heart, the sacred heart. And we're trapped in those three chakras. I've offered that as an explanation as to a symptom of what it is that keeps people limited in their knowledge, in what they can see and how they can see people. You can only see people based on your own limitations. So it's very difficult for people who don't walk those paths to actually get it across to people that are still stuck in there. We're speaking the truth, but you don't see it. Now, the path that's less travelled is the spiritual path. And the first protocol of treading on that path is to understand that you cannot limit yourself by following another tradition, because all the traditions are created by man, man's impressions of, man's comprehension of something outside of itself. So back you go to what the man said, the kingdom of my Father is within. Genesis 1. And then the garden. Again, all these symbolism I've been giving you over these years in these live streams are parts of the whole. And I know that people don't see it. You hear the words, but it doesn't go in. You don't grasp it or comprehend it in the manner that I'm trying to present it. I'm not trying to present it. I am presenting it. It's just, I can't help you or make you understand what I'm actually saying. I don't know. I'm not blowing my own trumpet here. You know, I chose that path, less travelled, 30 years ago. And my God, I wouldn't wish it on anybody, because you're going against the entire grain of everything down here. Your family think you've gone crazy. And they do think you've gone crazy. They're not joking. They really believe you're going insane. But you're not. You're following that voice from within. You're following that kingdom within. And as I said to you before, it's all feminine that runs that path. It's the feminine goddess path, because it's the goddess that opens the gate to the Father through his Son. But it's not, we're not looking at physical things here. We're looking at symbolism. Yeah, we've got to look at it in this way. Now, the Vatican originally held our Christian name in trust and enforced our rights as a Christian. Over time, since the Crusades, that's shifted. It shifted because they created the surname, implemented it in the church at the Holy See level. This is why these banking families make up the Holy See. And this has been done without the knowledge of the run-of-the-mill priests, bishops, archbishops, because it's been a secret inner circle clique within the organisation. And this battle that's going on right now between Archbishop Vigano and all the people that follow him and are supporting him is the last chance for the Christians to keep the Christian organisation operating for us. It doesn't matter if you're following the religion. That's not what Jesus said. It's not what he was telling you. The kingdom of God is within you, of his Father. He doesn't even use the term God. For me, that's a misnomer. It's a nonsense. Because when you get into Genesis 1, it's not God, it's Elohim, plural. It's so important that you grasp these concepts. Otherwise, you can't see. You can't see it. You can't see it. It's impossible. The surname is the trap. And we're all running around on the surname. Are we not? And that's why we are trapped in this mimic system that's calling itself the Vatican today, because it conjoined itself with the Jewish system, which is the Babylonian system, because that's where it was formed. The Old Testament was formed in Babylon. The Second Temple was formed out of Babylon by the captives under King Cyrus, speaking of which, has he not just been shot? The emotional cannon as a weapon is huge. You've just had Prince William, the longhead, Billy the Shagger, pretending for the football. Have you any idea how long he's rehearsed that? Sat at back of him Beckham, who wants a knighthood. And he's a Jewish guy, by the way, David Beckham. He wants a knighthood. So now he's up the arse, a longhead. They rehearsed that because what? What are they doing? They want you, the football hooligans, the football people, to think he's on your side. He's one of us. Is he fuck one of you? Get it in your head. That were well rehearsed. And the comments coming up all over the show is Unit 8200, 77 Brigade, the bots, saying, oh, look, he's one of us. Are you falling for this nonsense? You've just had another major false flag, in my opinion, a crossbow attack. Now, you've got to understand that when people are up in this game, if they're shifted into a new role in intelligence, you have to feign your death. It looks so suspicious because, A, they're the kids and family of somebody very well known in journalism world or commentating world. So it gets massive thingy. Now, I was watching it, and then all of a sudden they've announced they're now going to get rid of crossbows, or they're thinking about it. They're disarming you because now we've got full-blown Bolshevism in. Keir Starmer, we're going to have a little look at him, is 100% a baby of MI5, MI6, which means Mossad, which means Israel, which means the conjoinment of Rome and Judaism, which means the Noahide system. Are you seeing this? Going to your church, worshipping whatever, isn't doing you anything. In the same way that going obsessing with football and the word England isn't having any effect on England. None. It's a fantasy. And look at the attention and emotion that's been put onto this Roman theatre. When really, if you were to put that energy into your country, the nation, England, the culture of law that gives you the freedom, protects you from Babylon, protects you from this Noahide system. But no, you'll put it into that. Same thing, obfuscation. You miss everything. You miss everything. So I'm just going to read now just this origin of the surname on the British Isles. And it says, the Salian surname finds its earliest origins with the ancient Anglo-Saxon culture of Britain. But as I said, it's open to debate that these people down in the south that they say created England were actually Saxons. They can't find the DNA, they can't find the archaeology. That's what Time Team were trying to do for all the years it were on the telly. If it's still on, I don't know. Couldn't find any. Their name is derived from the baptismal name Solomon. Not Solomon, Solomon, which was an ancient personal name. Well, it could only be Solo Man, actually, as well, because it's not Solo. Yeah, it could actually be Solo Man. Baptismal names began to appear as surnames relatively late in the growth of the naming tradition. This is a little surprising given the popularity of biblical figures in the Christian countries of Europe. I don't know why it's surprising. There are no surnames in the biblical tradition. Jesus of Nazareth, of a place. Judas Iscariot, he was part of a group called the Iscariots or Iscarites. It's only always the first name. Nevertheless, surnames derived from baptismal names grew in popularity during the Middle Ages. Crusades. Nothing to do with Anglo-Saxons. And have become one of the foremost sources for surnames. The surname Salian also has origins as a nickname for a man who was considered to be wise or fortunate. The surname Salian was first found in Surrey, where there were lords of the manor of Caterham from ancient times. Alternatively, the name could have been derived from Selham, a bit close to Salem, is it not? A small village in the Chichester district of West Sussex. The village dates back to the Domesday Book, Angevins, William the Conqueror, or William the Bastard, where it was listed as Selham and literally meant homestead by a copse of sallow trees. A scan of early rolls revealed Alicius Selaman in the Pipe Rolls for 1169 for Northumberland, Thomas Selman in the Hundredorum Rolls of 1275 for Wiltshire, John Seliman in the Hundredorum Rolls of 1279 for Cambridgeshire, and Robert Saliman in the Subsidy Rolls for Essex in 1327, and Claricia Selimion and Henry Selmon in the Subsidy Rolls for Worcester for 1327. So this is all coming in on the back of the 1066 conquest, and I've made it clear many times. That's when England ended. Never mind began. And they had trouble, of course, getting rid of the common laws, because they were already in place and had been in place before even Alfred, who only pulled together what was on British Isles. And the oldest that I found was the right to the highway. That goes back to Kilmalgetus, or Harold the Bold, from, is it 3 something BC? Trojans. See, the entire system that was built here seems to be based in the Trojan system. Who were the Trojans? Israelites. That's why they got on here with the Druids, the Tuatha De Danann, the Irish. We were all one, but split and divided tribes of Israel who'd forgotten their interconnection. However, in a letter to Caesar that I have on the website, when Caesar's talking to one of the elites here on the British Isles and saying, "Look, you just give yourself up to Rome," saying we are brethren. I'll put that up so you can have a read. So this is knowledge we've lost. Deliberately they've removed it, just as they've removed the fact that the church originally held our Christian name in trust to make sure that those rights were enforced. It's been taken over after the conjoinment with the Jewish system and introduced a surname, which is the trap. So let's look at it another way. The moment the pregnant mother tallies up with a midwife, the midwives operate for the Vatican because they operate in the temples of the Knights Hospitallers, the hospitals. You don't have to be in an hospital, you can be at home. But the minute you make connection with the midwives, after the Midwife Act, remember, when it changed, because previous to that, your grandmas used to deliver babies. So these are like priestesses, if you will, for this Judaic system. So they already carry and own the surname. That's their perpetual instrument. That's their Holy Ghost in this mimic. So the moment you connect with a midwife, straight away then, they're making records here. Assignment document is created. Oh, there's been an event. And this is the surname that's involved in this event. Off it goes to the registrar. He's only got one part of this. until mum and dad register the baby, which means you're depositing the Christian name into that trust conjoined. Consider it in those terms. And the Vatican has been the holder of the Christian name and the protector of your rights under Christ. So this idea that we have to hate it has been promulgated. It's been created since the Crusades to make us despise it. Because what they're making us despise is Christ and the work he did in giving us the end of our sin, i.e. being trapped in that system. You Americans are really going to struggle with that because you're obsessed. You're obsessed with the name without seeing what that really means. And look at what's just happened. You know, King Cyrus has just been shot. Now you really want him to get in. He's the one that's going to shift it, the entire American estate, into the Noahide system. You think you love the Israel and it's what it stands for. They despise you. They hate you that much. They need to get you in this trust so they can kill you. Kill your offspring. And get rid of that Christ brought us to save us from the system. And you're going to do that in the name of Jesus because you don't understand the game. So this battle that's going on right now in the Vatican is huge. It's so huge, in fact, that Archbishop Vigano and his crew are the real deal. These are the people, the entire realm of Christendom need to get behind if you understand what I've said to you tonight. If you don't understand it and you're full of wind and piss and you hate everything that's not whatever it is that's in your little bubble, you're going to miss the point entirely. And everything that you fear, everything that you have an idea is coming. It's coming to you because you will not and cannot expand your awareness to the reality of the situation. And as I've said again before, the priests, even the bishops, don't necessarily understand this. There may be a bigger percentage of them today that do, because of course the Jesuits have been running it for quite some time. At least after, I'd say, Pope Pius X. The last, I would say, true Vicar of Christ. Because it doesn't call itself the Vicar of Christ anymore, does it? It calls itself the Church of Rome, not the Church of Christ. It can't do anymore because it's not holding your given name in trust. It's cementing your given name to this mimic. And it's been missed by people. They can't see it. So I hope these live streams for the last 3 years or whatever, 4 years, have actually given you can see it now and pull it together. That, okay, I might have not given you the way you want, and people do contact me sometimes and go, "You're not making it fucking easy for me, man." Well, why would I make it easy for you? Do you have any idea how fucking much effort I've had to put in this game for 30 fucking years to understand these concepts? And you want it on a plate? Yeah, you want your arse wiping, people. That's not the way it works. It doesn't work that way. If you want to be a lazy bastard, if you want to toss around and just, follow all these fruitcakes that are everywhere charging you money to take you down a dead-end path, because you don't even try and comprehend what they're saying. You copy. And I know I'm not talking to the majority of wise asylum inmates here. But this is the game. This is where we're at, whether we like it or not. And if you fail to comprehend these concepts, you're not going to see what you need to see. And we've got 5 months, 4.5 months left before our estates on England can legitimately, because we're all consenting, be shifted into this no-hide system. They've already brought their agitators across the nation, and now they're agitating. You've now just voted in one of perhaps the biggest Bolsheviks since Tony Blair. This guy is a chameleon. This guy is dangerous, because I don't think he's all there. I think this guy's so damaged from the likes of Jimmy Savile that this guy has got more altars going on than some of the women that David Icke interviewed back in the day. And this guy is just an open book for whatever it is these MI6 priesthood programmers want him to do, want him to say at any given time. And this guy has made it very clear. He wants Britain or UK to embrace Islam. There's no Christ in Islam. None. Who's joined us tonight? Let's have a look. Oh, why is that not working? Ah, there we go. Untitled says, Live Mix, thank you, Sean, for being live tonight. Your energy and talent made it unforgettable. You shout out to all the viewers who joined. Your support means a lot. Well, thank you very much. And your support means a lot as well. Jerry says, Sean, all the wise asylum, thumbs up and a shaking of the hand. And back to you, Jerry. Good evening, sir. Ulick says, it must be feeding time. Hey, Jerry, Sean and chat. Hello to you, Ulick. It's a terrible name you've got going on there. Please click the like button. Yeah, get that like button clicked. It's showing 4 on mine. No, it's showing 2. I'm sure it just said 4. Anyway. John Francis says, good vid, and it hadn't started. Well done, John. Thank you very much, sir. Good evening to you. June says, good evening, Sean and chat. Evening to you, June. Mew says, football the Sean, not a choice really. Hello, folks. How do you, Sean? Well, Mew, I fully expected you to be watching the old bag of win kickers. So, well done indeed. And who's winning, by the way? 1-0 to Spain. Oh, dear. Hello, Mew. Jerry says, Ulick, and yeah. Paul says, good evening, Sean, and fellow members of the Wise Asylum. Good evening, Paul. The usual inmates, of course. And isn't it pleasant? Because we get to chit-chat and we're talking to each other, as opposed to streams and streams and nut jobs talking out their ass. Mew says, yeah. Lex, evening, Sean, and all. Evening, Lex. Slipknot. All right, Sean, Jackie, and everyone alike. Trev. Jerry says, I see the Patriot pacifier giving the first of power after his incident. The Patriot pacifier giving the first of power after... The Patriot pacifier, who's that? Is that some geezer? And June says, Spain has scored 1-0. Okay. Jerry says, on my channel, Sean, on the playlist, I have Justin in Deception. The goat if you are looking for that video. Right, well, I got mixed up because it's years and years ago since I got into that kind of stuff, but for some reason I had it in my mind that it was Baphomet that defined as that, when of course it's the goat, but it is goat-headed, so that's probably why I got a bit confused. Take not your father's name in vain. Interesting, yeah. Liam says, hello Liam. Pope Francis' general audience at Peter Square Wednesday 25th of June 2014 announced that the surname belongs to the church. The Vatican, yes, he did. Belongs, not owned, remember. And again, another word that's interesting and you need to look it up to know what they're telling you. Kerry says, love from Ireland, love back to Ireland, Kerry. Ulick says Stephen Barr untitled, so I don't know who Stephen Barr is. Jerry says, I'm sure everyone here has looked in. Solvermist gives it the old pink wave. Hello, Solvermist. Slipknot. That's what the dumb blame was about. Well, it's interesting because I have a mate. Because they were a nightclub here called Funnies. And so this is going back in the 80s. And so I have a mate he's a mess, let's put it that way these days, but he's been through a lot. And he was always a mess when we were at school because I think a lot of dodgy stuff went on. Now, He was in the funnies this one particular time, and he says, and he's adamant of this, that one of the teachers that were in that Dunblane massacre, I forget her name, it's a female, drugged him and raped him, took him home and raped him. And this is in the 80s. And then this Dunblane. So he's of the mind that we know it were a fake-up. But he's of the mind that she's not dead, she was just shifting intelligence roles, which is what you do. You kill that person and you come again as something else. Again, this is why you see, like, John Lennon's not dead. Elvis didn't die. You know, you have to kill off the persona, and if you leave it, that persona, by choice, or they decide for you, whatever, because they're all intelligence agents, these entertainers, as you probably know. So Dunblane, yeah. There's a lot more going on with that, isn't there? So much. And again, with Dunblane, it were, let's attack people's firearms. I mean, when I was growing up, you could have any shotgun you wanted. You didn't have to separate it on your licenses. You had two with firearms. You had to isolate each firearm and have it logged, and then they had to be locked in secure, sort of like safes. But the shotguns didn't. Then after Dunblane, they all hit on this and changed all the rules on firearms and shotguns. And yeah, like I've just said, now that they've now announced that they're considering getting rid of crossbows. People, you need to get a grip at what they're actually doing here. It's so important. And this is why you have to reassert your Christian name. In my name you will be saved, said the man. He wasn't joking. Think I mentioned it before when Trump was pres, allegedly shifted playing loads of gold from Vatican. Was it the Noahide Kazakh deal? Well, that's quite possible, definitely, yeah, because he is King Cyrus. They've minted coins in that respect in Israel when he were in power. And King Cyrus, in their eyes, emancipated the Jews. Of course, they weren't Jews, because that name wasn't even in existence back then. But these Hyksos, who fought 4 major wars against northern Egypt to try and force this monotone god, they claim that King Cyrus back in the day, which he did, he was their emancipator to the Levant to build the Second Temple, which the man came to destroy. And he did destroy it. See, that's where they play clever and tied Rome into it when Rome weren't really tied into it back then. But then most of the script that they've presented about the man is false. And then for that, we'd have to know Marcion, or as they call him, the first great Satan, which is utter nonsense. The Druids, it were a Druid system, a Druid doctrine. So clearly the Druids originally were saving you from Babylon. They were opposed to Babylon. Why? Well, because they were the Israelites who were doing battle with the monotones. You know what I mean? It's Ulrich says, oh sorry, untitled, yeah. Oh, he's asking a question, yeah. Stephen Barr, who's that? Notice how they drill us into as how proud you should be of a family name, carry the father's name on. Exactly. Precisely. That is the perpetual instrument. That is the Holy Spirit of this mimic system. And it belongs to the people that run the church now, and the midwives, so it's priestesses. And the registrar is the bishop. Where are we now? Jury says it's 2-2. Oh, jolly groovy. No, 1-1. Make your mind up, June. Have you got your glasses on, love? Or have you been on... have you been on the grape? David says, hiya folks, late again. Not a problem, David. Life in the Mix, London Square Mile, the Bankers Trojans, Untitled says. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Mew says, forgiven name. Forgiven name. I don't know, does that work? your sins are forgiven, isn't it, if you get rid of the surname? So, yeah, maybe that fits you. And Life of the Mix says, Story David, as symbolising, I would think, the conjoinment of the Church of Rome and the Jewish system. Church of Rome pulling down from the heavens, the Jewish system claiming to control the garden, which is on the earth. Up, down. Could very well be that, sir. Which is the Star of Remphan. So it's a very old system, known in the days of the biblical text, which is older than what was pulled together by the captives in Babylon to give you the Old Testament. It's a mishmash. And the Midrash, if you study the Midrash, you can see clearly how they force things together. Same if you read the Islamic occultism. They've nicked the Talmud, nicked it and put their own names in. It's so obvious. Copy and paste before computers. They've all been doing it. I'm not laying siege against any one particular group. They've all been doing it. All of them. To make themselves look older, more ancient. To big them up. It's been going on forever. Isaac Newton wrote this for Queen Anne. Explained exactly how he saw it. And that all these events are far closer to our time than history would have us see. Jerry says, when you know what is to be, a man come back to me. I heard a wise man say one day. Well, the return of Jesus would be us all remembering and recognising that it is actually the surname that's screwing it up. And this Antichrist king is actually the king of the surnames. That's what he is. So therefore he's classed as Antichrist. He's anti your given or Christian name. Yeah? And he's the anti of that because he's the king of the surnames. Charles is a part of this. His son's a part of this, and all the hangers on. Our entire system is off to this fucked up entity and have took our system. Now, we're going to go through the rules of acceptance in contract. And we're going to use the UK rules. So that you guys understand the importance of a conditional acceptance, which I've presented to you before. Quite a few times now. Because I'm not presenting it to you and saying maybe, could be, might be. And when I present stuff to you, I'm saying, this is fucking what you're playing with if you want to start to play to rebut the system. Yeah? And just following it and listening and going, la-di-da-di-da, carries on after. Doesn't cut it for you guys. You've got to understand this stuff or you won't be able to use it. You've got 4.5 months, which is plenty of time when you've got the Wise Asylum at your side. You know, I've met many of you on here. I've met many of you. I'm available. Yeah. We're friends. But we don't do it on the internet. Because they watch everything I fucking do. Everything. And I don't blame them. Where are we? 2-1 says David. I take that to the Spanish. That's not good. Michael Jr. says, evening everyone. Evening to Michael. Space Hopper Mark. Hello peoples. Hello Space Hopper Mark. Mew says, forename forgiven. Oh. Well spotted there. Jeff. Jerry says, a Mew pit notice on documents how the convert the forename to the last and the surname comes first. Yeah. Because in their system, the first name is the surname. I've said this to you before. In their system, the first name is the surname. It's all trickery from this system when they're talking to you. They know what they're doing, not all of them. And, you know, I think it's only after the National Securities Act that most of these people have realised that they're fucking trapped. Yet, they were all stupid enough to still take this oath to this foreign entity. Even Corbyn took it, but he said it's an affirmation. No difference. You've took an oath, affirmed yourself to a foreign entity, you Bolshevik bastard. You know? And, yeah, first name in their system is the last name, the surname. Not the last name, the surname. And it's trapped your Christian name, which is secondary. Okay? You can see it. That's the way it is. Now, let's have a look. Where are we? This is an insight into who Keir Starmer is. Okay? And it says, Keir Starmer's origins and he's so sure. Sorry. No, I did this rushed before live stream. I'm very rushed. There might be a cock-ups in it, but never mind. Keir Starmer's origins, his intelligence ties are clear. It's abundantly obvious to everyone that he's very close relations with MI5 and MI6. Keir Starmer's full name, date and place of birth, passport photo were kept by Czechoslovakian secret police during the Cold War in a directory titled Foreign Intelligence. And there's a Twitter account, which he's going to show you in a minute. He's declaring that he's literally a spy. So basically saying the Czechs had a file on Keir Starmer because they had him down as an intelligence asset. The Twitter account is declaring that he's literally a spy. This is the Czech secret police assessment of Starmer, which is that he was an MI6 agent at the time, which is really ironic given that Jeremy Corbyn was falsely portrayed as a spy for the Czech secret police during the Cold War by the same forces that put Starmer into power. And this is just took a photo shot of this Twitter account that's saying, Keir Starmer's full name, date and place of birth, passport photo and number, home address, visa application and handwritten personal details were kept by the Czechoslovakian secret police in a directorate titled Foreign Intelligence. And that Keir Starmer is literally a spy. And there it is. You can't really see that writing. It's not the best. If you look at his background, he has always portrayed himself as an outsider, and he makes a lot of the fact that his dad was a carpenter. Well, I've presented the images of him close to Jimmy Savile, have I not, as a child, and then again as an adult, because he's clearly an adulterer. If you look at his background, he always portrayed himself as an outsider, and he makes a lot of the fact that his dad was a carpenter, perhaps he wants to make you think he's Jesus. An outsider called Jesus. Kiss my ass, Starmer. The reality is that he is an establishment through and through. When he became head of the Crown Prosecution Service, he was involved in very key cover-ups of British state crimes and conspiracies. A classic example is during the Julian Assange saga, when Julian was in the embassy. The Crown Prosecution Service was pressuring Swedish authorities to keep the bogus, baseless rape allegations and rape charges against Julian. They then openly deleted the vast bulk of emails related to this, and they also deleted records of Starmer's trips to Washington, D.C. But I've told you, in my opinion, Julian Assange is an intelligence asset, and he's now a new god. And he's now banging the living daylights out of porn star, that one's what she called, Pamela Anderson, the blowjob queen. Yeah, sure, you're all going to love him. You know, all the porn freaks are going to love it because he's shagging Pamela. And they've done a lot of pulling of the pud to that video, I'm pretty sure. You see how they play this game? They so capture you so easily. If you're not a full shilling. And this is the CPS has destroyed all records of Keir Starmer's 4 trips to Washington. US records show Starmer met with Attorney General Eric Holder and a host of American and British national security officials in Washington in 2011 when he was in charge of Julian Assange's proposed extradition to Sweden. And that was Matt Kennard, 29th of June 2023. During this time, he was the CPS chief when British authorities were gathering evidence on MI5 and MI6 complicity and direct involvement in the CIA torture program. Remember, CIA is Jesuitism. MI6, MI5 were handed to Mossad under David Cameron, and we got the image of the pig with his cock in the pig's mouth. There was an enormous amount of documents and evidence gathered proving beyond any doubt whatsoever that MI6 and MI5 were actually and intimately involved in the torture of quote-unquote terror suspects. This included faxes sent by an MI6 asset called Mark Allen, where he openly talked with Libyan security services. MI6 had rendered a terror suspect and his wife to Libya to be tortured. Dangerous, these Patriot Acts and this Contingency Act that people have forgotten about, but they're in after 9/11. Mark Allen was conversing with his opposite number in Tripoli about this, saying, oh well, you know this is our intelligence, so you know you shouldn't share it with the Americans. And you can use whatever techniques you want, basically, on the torture. Absolute smoking gun evidence, and yet the CPS decided, despite this vast wealth of material, to not prosecute any MI5 or MI6 official for involvement in this saga. Well, they've got diplomatic immunity, haven't they? From the Vatican, this system. Storm was also the head of the CPS when the Crime Prosecution Service decided, despite a volume of witness evidence, to not prosecute Jimmy Savile for sex crimes. There is damning internal report written by Stormer's second-in-command from this period, which explicitly states that there was a stack of evidence against Savile, and thus he had a case to answer based on what was gathered by police. But the police are operating for the no-hide judge, 21st degree push and night, remember. And there was a decision made internally to not only move against the Savile information, but to destroy all records related to the case, which is in breach of a very clear internal guidelines on how long records should be kept. And this is Keir Starmer, the Bolshevik. He is a cover-up king. He has done his job for the British establishment very consistently throughout his career. He was appointed to Jeremy Corbyn's shadow cabinet late 2016 after he supported Corbyn's removal. Does that not show you that the Prime Minister doesn't choose the cabinet? The Privy Council does. So he's supporting Corbyn's removal, but then after that, he's appointed to Corbyn's cabinet, shadow cabinet. Privy Council run the cabinet. Remember this. So if Corbyn never got in, he's been picked. So that's a game, a schism game playing out in Labour, isn't it? Oh, Jeremy, oh, arseholes. They're all arseholes. Very foolish move. He had a job at this time with a notorious British firm which has been fined enormous amounts of money for helping the clients evade taxes and has also been fingered for intimidating and threatening journalists. Now, they were a law firm. I couldn't make out the name of it from the transcript, so I just took it out. For intimidating and threatening journalists. He was earning tens of thousands for a day's work with this firm. Now, I know that to be the case. Back in our day, when we were exposing ARC, we got a letter from Shillings solicitors, which in them days, you got a Shillings letter and everybody shit themselves. We, of course, said, kiss my fucking ass and fuck you, and carried on. And we never heard another thing. It's all about fear. If they got you on fear, they've got you. Corbyn forced him to stop this, and then thereafter he served Corbyn. Yeah, so Corbyn stopped him doing that, working for that firm, and then he started to serve Corbyn, or so we're led to believe. Another grey zone is on how the entire second Brexit referendum, so you remember we had the referendum and then they were all calling for a second one, was a project and a product of a little-known political party called Renew. So all this calls to go back to Europe and against Brexit is the feat of a company, a party called Renew, which was set up by individuals tied to MI6, NATO, and the 77th Brigade, which is the British Army's Psychological Warfare Division. You see why we have to get out of NATO? NATO and everybody need us in Europe, because they need us to fight Russia. We have to get back in Europe first. So if we go back into Europe, that's all your kids conscripted. White kids, I'm talking about, and black kids, not subcultures. And that'll leave all your women and grandma to the subcultures. Now, I've been listening to Radio 1 deliberately because it drives me up the wall. If you're looking for something that's perverting your children, Radio 1. So they've got all these artists on. I kid you not, I've never heard anything like it. But also it's full is Radio 1 of music that's just, obviously they all know the old tunes from the 90s and the 80s. And they're just sampling old hooks and rhythms from the 90s and 80s and then offering them up again. And Dua Lipa is one of the worst, along with Coldplay, who are using scientific music to blag you because they're so shit, really. He just owls, doesn't he? But they're using music scientifically, the chord system, to grab you. But there's a plethora of what you might call English rappers, but they're not English. And basically the theme of these rappers is goes like this. This is about the maximum intelligence coming out of these. It's a bit like, I'm thick as fuck, because I'm thick as fuck. But somebody told me that I was good, and I believed it, because I'm thick as fuck. That is what you're getting. That's what your kids are getting, and they think it's fucking amazing. I've never heard such garbage in my fucking life. And this is Radio 1. You're paying for it if you pay for the licence fee. Honestly, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Stormy was made Brexit secretary and started pushing for a second referendum, contrary to the statements of Corbyn and other shadow cabinet ministers. This chap is a serious subversion agent. Stormer has been heavily protected throughout his life, and on all these transgressions, now that he's the head of the British government and His Majesty's Prime Minister, he's probably more protected than ever. Why would he delete the records surrounding Jimmy Savile? Why would he have covered up for such a prolific sex predator or someone who committed some of the most heinous crimes against children that Britain has ever seen? Well, you haven't looked into what Edward Heath were doing. Savile was heavily embedded with the British royal family, and there are photos of him smiling Stormer receiving honours from the then Prince Charles and also Queen Elizabeth. And there's a lot of pictures of Savile receiving these honours from the said fake-ups. He's an establishment figure through and through, and the British establishment protects themselves through such figures as Stormer. There were a large number of letters sent by British ministers to and from the then Prince Charles, I think you might remember this, where he was interfering with the British government policy and the daily operations of the British government. People like Tony Blair and his ministers would sign off letters, this is back to Charles, saying, "Your most faithful and humble servant." Now, if you go back to Dr. John Coleman, he made it clear. He joined MI6 to fight communism, got into Africa and realised that MI6, MI5, the British Empire was installing communism. Would it not be the case? They funded Bolshevism via Wall Street. So Bolshevism and all its insanity comes out of that connection between the church and the Jewish system. And you love Israel, Christians in America? You're heading for your own demise. If the British Crown wants something covered up, it will be because the people in positions of responsibility and power know not to rock the boat. And that's because they're all under oath. When Boris Johnson attacked Starmer with such allegations, there was disgust on the faces of the Conservative MPs. So Boris Johnson stood up and said all this about Starmer in fucking Parliament. And everybody turned on him, even his own. The disgust on their faces that the Prime Minister was debasing himself by sinking so low in the chamber was clear. He was telling the fucking truth. Should that tell you what the state parliament is all about? Because it's no longer the Commons. Our parliament belongs to the state, which belongs to the Vatican state, which is why they're handing the Church of England to a Secretary of State. You see? The one thing we know about this Prime Minister is everybody who's ever come into contact with him always gets damaged in the process. Boris Johnson is utterly disgraced. His former constituency is now held by Labour. He, during Prime Minister's question, said that Starmer had spent his time at the CPS, chief prosecuting journalists and refusing to prosecute Jimmy Savile. The reaction was quite incredible, like the entire media from ostensible left to right lined up to attack Johnson. These Conservative MPs condemned the statements as despicable, disgusting slander. How can it be slander if it's true? They're all puppets, every single one of them. Downing Street, which is the centre of the British government, advisors quit as a result of this. And then within 3 days, Boris Johnson was pressured into issuing a retraction and praising Starmer's time at CPS. The entire establishment of Britain moved in lockstep to attack Boris Johnson over this, just as they moved in lockstep to attack Jeremy Corbyn for not being sufficiently fascist. And it's just like you that is the level of protection that you were granted when you play the game. See, I put this together very quick. My apologies for the cock-upping. It doesn't make sense with it. Now that he is in office, it's almost inconceivable that these serious questions will be asked of him. He creates the myth in his background as a human rights lawyer. Yeah, for Islamic terrorists. And a defender of justice and democracy and liberty within the UK. Actually, his record speaks to a deep relationship with the security and intelligence services, that he was meeting with MI5 and MI6 chiefs while he was meant to be reviewing objectively and critically cases brought against them for complicity and torture. It's so brazen, but you know this is where we are in 2024. It very closely resembles our situation across the Atlantic. And Israeli spies still working for Labour during UK election campaign. And this guy, where are we? He's called Asaf Kaplan. You see, Israel, or let's say the conjoinment of Rome and the Jewish system, which is Israel, they're flooding the West, the Christian nations, with these Islamists in a means to get rid of the Christian name. Again, the Christian. That's what it's about. This is clearly a religious war. And they're using the Muslims to do it. Now, of course, I live around Muslims and most of them are just chilling along. But you get to London and they're not tarmac, obstructing the highway. They're talking absolute shite. Now, you know, are these Muslims picking it up? I don't know. But war's on our doorstep, folks. And while you're following England kicking footballs, you're not paying attention to England being destroyed. And you want me to see you as intelligent. Former Israeli spy Asaf Kaplan is still employed by the UK Labour Party during its current general election campaign, the electronic intifada can reveal. We've also learned of Kaplan's attempt to gain access to a cross-party electoral reform group called Get PR Done, alarming members and administrators of the group who were aware of his background in the Israeli military's elite cyber warfare unit. And in an extraordinary turn of events on Tuesday, the Labour Party threatened legal action against the electronic intifada after we sent them a request for comment. Yet the party did not dispute any specific statements put to them in our inquiry for this story and effectively confirmed that they still employ Kaplan during their current election campaign. Kaplan has remained active in the Labour Party since he was first exposed by the electronic intifada in January 2021. Labour leader Starmer hired Kaplan to help the party influence events or narratives online and to track Labour members. Since taking over Labour in 2020, Starmer has obsessively purged the Labour massive, especially against former leader Jeremy Corbyn. So anybody that backed Corbyn, they've used that. See, that's clever, isn't it? You've created this schism and then gone out the way now, before this latest election, to purge the party of anybody that supported what people believe Corbyn represented, which is basically the fucking United Nations, if you actually watched him. Corbyn is now running as an independent candidate, blah, 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 blah. And he's had donations into the Labour campaign. A source inside Labour Party staff revealed on Friday that this gone. Starmer also defended Labour's deference after completely kneecapping Jeremy Corbyn for failing to see Palestinians as, quote, human animals. They're basically hiring Israeli spies in the Labour Party. You see, what I can't stand about this is all our politics now, whether you're in America, whether you're here, it's not about England. It's about, are you for Israel or are you for Palestine? I mean, that's clever shit that they managed to do that. Or is it just the fact that it's a sad, sad indictment on the capacity of people in America and of people in England and Scotland and Wales? And I'd say, yeah, it's down to us. We're way beyond par. It says, so this is someone from Israel's notorious Unit 8200 that is involved in targeting civilians in the Gaza Strip, in targeting people all across the Gaza Strip and presiding over the gospel AI system which generates targets of entire families. Labour has hired this firm, Hakelut, which consists of former MI6 veterans. Now, I did a report about Hakelut about 15 years ago, and there it is as a link. Labour is being run by the intelligence services of the Israel lobby under Storm, and what difference there is between them and the Tories is sort of indistinguishable at this point. But that really reminds me of the kind of duopolitical system that we've just become accustomed to in the US, to the point where people just take it for granted. They caught on undercover camera Mossad operatives tied to the Israeli embassy in the UK talking about how they had hit lists of MPs who'd spoken up about Palestine in Parliament, who they were trying to take down. There is undercover footage of British MPs tied to the Conservative and Labour Friends of Israel groups within the two major parties within the UK, taking vast amounts of money to further Israel's interests in Parliament. This gets zero media coverage, and meanwhile all sorts of fantasies about Russians meddling in British politics, such as the allegation that there were Russian bots tweeting out pro-Brexit messages, getting blanket coverage. But Russia is also a player in this Bolshevik game, so... But yeah, blaming Russia for everything is hiding the fact that actually this is Unit 8200 and 77 Brigade. Alan Duncan, who is a hardcore Conservative, long-time minister, I think he stood down at the last election. He recorded in his diary all sorts of observations about the influence of the Conservative Friends of Israel, that they think that they run the British Foreign Office, and they actually do. All sorts of disclosures about how the Israel lobby had influenced the composition of government, saying, well, we don't like this person, so they're not getting an influential job in the government. We like this person, so they should get it instead. And stating that they operate like a hostile foreign intelligence agency, and if it was any other country, they wouldn't get away with it. Those diaries get blanket universal reviews across mainstream. They get nothing. Publications, these disclosures get zero coverage or mention or acknowledgement whatsoever. There is a huge blind spot in the influence of Israel on British politics. It's not spoken about. And that ends a bit of an insight into the Bolshevik that's just been elected on Blighty. Hey, anybody got what we're saying? Smash like your other lurkers. Is the lurker about? Have we not seen him? Music has really degenerated over the last 30 years. Yeah, purposefully. They don't create anybody. They don't allow people that create themselves anymore. It's, you come and do this and you'll sing that. You'll play that. You know? I mean, when I was studying the occult side of Hollywood, I mean, Kurt Cobain doesn't come out very well. He wasn't even a smack addict. It was all a show to get the students on smack. I don't know. But that's the degree, the way these actors play. And when they've had enough, they feign the death, and off they go to something else. They're all deviants, yeah. They never called Blur by his cottaging name. Or Miranda, yeah, either. Miranda, yeah, that's what he was known as at college, weren't it? Final one, score 2-1. Congratulations to Spain. Oh, well. Well, there you go. So now we know. 2-1 to the Spanish. They're all going to be miserable now, aren't they? Everybody's going to be miserable like it's the end of the fucking world. No thoughts for the fact that your country's being fucked over. But that's the mentality of those who suck into the Roman games, is it not? Right, now, if we go Yeah. This helps you to understand the importance of the conditional acceptance. Understanding the acceptance rule in UK contract law. See if I can make that a bit bigger, chaps. Is that okay? Can you see that a bit better? As a law enthusiast, the acceptance rule in UK law has always fascinated me. The concept of acceptance is a vital element in contract formation and plays a significant role in ensuring that agreements are legally binding. In blog posts Delve Nuances, Acceptance Rule Law, UK Law, exploring important implications for legal practice. Basics acceptance rule. Before delving into the specifics, it's important to understand the basic principles of the acceptance rule. In contract law, acceptance refers to the final and unqualified expression of assent to the terms of an offer. Once acceptance is communicated, a legally binding contract is formed. In the UK, acceptance can be communicated through various means, including verbal communication, written correspondence, or conduct that indicates agreement to the terms of the offer. And of course, their assumption is you're on the surname, and so it's already acceptance, because they're not. So in common law, a man can be accused, but then that man can determine a court of 12 of his peers, which means men of his own standing. Then a court is convened, and a jury will decide the outcome of the accusation. Only then is a charge made. Now, under Napoleonic law, which is what I sort of educated the barristers to back in 2014, is what we're under today, because you're charged and then you're defending yourself. You're not innocent till proven guilty. You're charged guilty and you've got to defend yourself to prove yourself innocent, which you're never going to do because you've gone in on the surname. You're not being heard. And if you get a solicitor to solicit, he's a court officer, you're fucked. Yeah? So, case study, Adams v. Linsell. In the landmark case of Adams v. Linsell, the acceptance rule was put to the test. The defendants, Linsell, wrote to the plaintiff, Adams, offering to sell them some wool and requesting a response by post. Due to a postal delay, the plaintiff received the offer several days after it was sent. In the meantime, the defendants assumed that no acceptance had been made and sold the wool to another party. Court ruled favour plaintiff, holding acceptance valid moment posted, regardless received defendants. Now, this is where you get where the special delivery is important. Because once you hand it over to the post, once it goes over that counter, it's classed as delivered, served, yeah? So that's the postal rule. That's how important that is and why I only use the post. It's also a witness. But it's served. Once it passes hands, it's served. That's it. So you can use email if you wish, by all means. But there are 1,000 means and methods that they can play funny games. It might cost you nearly £8, but stop being a tight ass. If you're dealing in this, you're protecting yourself, you're looking after yourself, you're looking out for yourself, you're coming to understanding that in his name, which is your name, you are saved. Is that important enough to you, or are you going to give it up? Exceptions and limitations. While acceptance rule fundamental principle contract law, exceptions and limitations application. For instance, acceptance must mirror the terms of the offer, and any deviation may result in a counter-offer rather than acceptance. So if they present a charge of something, you would say, I conditionally accept upon you proving that what you're saying is correct. You're not saying no, are you? You're accepting, but there's a condition. But that condition has to be in sync with what it is they're saying. Otherwise, it becomes a counter-offer. You understand that? It's important. Additionally, Acceptance must be communicated in a manner prescribed by the offerer. So if you get it by mail, send it by mail. Statistics acceptance rule cases. According to recent statistics, acceptance rule cases account for a significant portion of contract disputes in the UK. In 2020, approximately 30% of the contract-related litigation involved issues relating to acceptance and the formation of legally binding agreements. Implications for legal practice. For legal professionals, a thorough understanding of the acceptance rule is crucial in advising clients on contract formation and dispute resolution, whether drafting contracts or representing clients in litigation. The nuances of acceptance can have a profound impact on the outcome of a case. Table common type law, yep. So you've got express acceptance, clear and unambiguous communication of acceptance. An implied acceptance is an acceptance inferred from conduct or silence. Tacit agreement, tacit acquiescence, yeah, is an implied acceptance. Conditional acceptance, acceptance subject to certain conditions or modifications. Now this is what I've been preaching. Okay? You never want to be on implied acceptance, which is if you ignore it. Yeah? Unless you've presented your standing on record for these people, then you can ignore the letters. But just ignoring them is okay, but not when they get it in the no-hide system. Everything you've managed to get away with is going to come crashing down on you. The acceptance rule in UK law is a fascinating and complex aspect of contract formation. Its implications are far-reaching and play a crucial role in shaping the legal landscape. As legal practitioners and enthusiasts, it's essential to continually explore and understand the intricacies of acceptance to navigate the complexities of contract law effectively. Now, this is UK, remember. So this is binding on their shit system. Acceptance rule in UK, a professional legal contract. Preamble. Whereas the acceptance rule in the United Kingdom plays a crucial role in the formation of legally binding contracts, and whereas it is essential for parties engaged in contractual negotiations to understand and adhere to the principles and regulations governing acceptance. Definition terms. Acceptance, the unqualified expression of agreement. So if there's no... there has to be a complete expression of agreement, or the contract isn't there. But if you've got it on Surname or ID'd at it, it's there. Yeah? You start using your Christian name only, it's not there. It causes a problem. They're going to fight you tooth and nail, as I'm seeing with this. This is fucking insane what they're doing. What the fuck? They are insane, these people. They've breached just about every act and statute that they have to obey. I'm wondering if they don't have a clue what they're doing at council level, to be honest. Offerer. The party making the offer in a contractual arrangement. 3. Offeree. The party offer made. Option accept or reject the offer. So that's the offeree. Offerer is the one presenting it. You're the offeree if you're receiving it. Consideration. Something of value exchanged by the parties to a contract, such as money, goods or services. And remember, when you contract with these guys, the services they're saying is we're emptying your bins. You're going to get benefits. You're going to get a pension. Yeah? You can ride on our roads. Not the highways, you don't have any power over the highway. That's what they're assuming are the benefits, the services that they're offering you. Now, it's debatable as to whether the council are actually offering you any services. So, principles, acceptance UK. A. Offer and acceptance must be clear, unconditional, and communicated properly between the parties. So your paperwork has to be solid. Silence. Inactivity or ambiguous responses do not constitute acceptance under the law. Does not constitute acceptance. Acceptance may be communicated through various means, including verbal, written, or conduct that implies agreement. So if you don't do anything, yeah? Implied acceptance. Legal precedents. Carlisle v. Carbolic Smoke Bowl Company, 1893. The court held that acceptance can be through conduct, and fulfilling the conditions of the offer constitutes valid acceptance. Entors Limited v. Miles Far East Corporation, 1955. The court established that acceptance by instantaneous means, such as telex, is complete upon receipt. It is imperative for parties engaging in contractual negotiations and agreements in the United Kingdom to understand and adhere to the principle of acceptance as outlined in this legal contract. So there's the rules, people. Top 10 legal questions about acceptance rule in the UK. What is the acceptance rule in the UK contract? The acceptance rule in UK contract law is a fundamental principle that governs the formation of contracts. It states that acceptance must be communicated to the offerer for a contract to be formed. This means that a mere mental assent to an offer is not sufficient. The offeree must express their acceptance either orally, in writing, or through conduct. And that's where they get you, the conduct being implied by silence. What requirements valid acceptance in UK? In the UK, a valid acceptance must be unconditional. So if you're creating a conditional acceptance, it can't be accepted as a contract, as acceptance. Mirror the terms of the offer and be communicated to the offerer. Additionally, acceptance must be made by the person to whom the offer was made and within the specified time frame, if any. Can acceptance be revoked in the UK? Yes, acceptance revoked in UK communicated offerer. Once acceptance is communicated, it becomes legally binding and cannot be revoked unless there are exceptional circumstances such as fraud, duress, or mistake. Now, in this paperwork that I've been receiving, or on behalf of, it's full of mistakes. Now, I made a few errors, but I created an amendment notice and sent that in to amend the mistakes. Yeah? So you never lost. Amendment notice. Again, off it goes, registered. You're paying, it's costing you money, it doesn't matter. You're rebutting the devil and his surname. What postal rule apply acceptance UK? The postal rule is a common law principle that governs the moment of acceptance when the contract is made through post. According postal rule, acceptance effective soon posted, even lost delayed mail. However, rule applies acceptance revocation offer. I'm not sure whether these are actually the links that you can expand them, but I'll put it up at the end, the link. What significance acceptance formation contract UK law? It does not rate well titled, this, is it? Acceptance crucial element formation contract law signifies meeting minds, offerer, offeree. Without valid acceptance, contract formed, offerer bound terms, offer. I think there must be links there for you to expand. So there has to be a meeting of minds, doesn't there? So a conditional acceptance, as long as it's in tune with the way they've offered, there's no meeting of minds until they come back to you with what it is you've demanded. Can silence constitute acceptance in the UK? In general, silence cannot constitute acceptance in the UK. The offeree must actively communicate their acceptance to the offerer for a contract to be formed. However, exceptions rule course dealing parties implies acceptance silence. Course dealing parties implies acceptance. They're a little bit abstract, these, so I'm pretty sure there must be links on them or something. I can't remember because it was early in the week when I were pulling this up. And I've been very busy. Can acceptance be made through electronic communication? Yes, acceptance can be made through electronic communication in the UK, such as email, text message, or online form submission. The same principle of communication and validity applies to electronic acceptance as they do to traditional forms of acceptance. What happens if the offeree attempts to accept with additional or different terms in the UK? When the offeree attempts to accept an offer with additional or different terms, it is considered a counteroffer, not acceptance. The original offerer can then choose to accept the counteroffer, reject it, or propose a new offer. So even if you put in a counteroffer, it's not an acceptance. They have to come back with a counteroffer, something else, yeah? Or reject it. This process can continue until a mutual agreement is reached. So it always has to, for a contract to be binding, it has to be mutually agreed. What happens if the offeree attempts to accept the additional or different terms in the UK? Done that one. How does the acceptance rule apply to unilateral contracts in the UK? In the case of unilateral contracts, acceptance occurs when the offeree performs a requested act. The offerer is then obligated to fulfil their promise, as acceptance is deemed to have taken place through the offeree's performance. What remedies are available if there is a dispute regarding acceptance? If there is a dispute regarding acceptance in the UK, the aggrieved party may seek remedies such as specific performance, damages, or rescission of the contract. Legal action can be taken to enforce acceptance or challenge the validity of acceptance depending on the circumstances of the case. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Are they links? No, they're not links. How strange. They're a little bit ambiguous, them. They're not grammatically correct, I wouldn't say. They're not forming full sentences. However, I think you get the gist that, if you're going to get stuck into these are the kind of things that you really need to start becoming aware of so that you can form these. Because once you put it into practice, you'll find you're creating templates for yourself, in effect, for basic structures of these conditional acceptances. Obviously, you're changing everything relative to who you're sending it to, the numbers that you're sending it through the mail, and then, of course, the subject matter of the claim, as it were. But basically, the more effort you put in, the easier it becomes as you progress. Although this that I've done in this since March I've been doing this. Good grief, have I assigned myself to a completely different way of doing it. And, giving up that magic cabbage, good God, I can't tell you what a difference that's made to me, being able to formulate this and grasp it so that I know it, rather than having to go back and reread it and go, oh yeah, that's what I did. So, it looks like everything's working in tune for me, because that came first, and then I could apply myself properly to things I've been doing for bloody years. And, fucking hell. But anyway, never mind. So what you're not saying? The only like-minded can contract with man, fiction with fiction. That's another thing. They can't see the living man as well in commerce. Mark says, you do not pay anything, SESCUV trust, but you must gain an EIN number from the US Treasury, which means employer identification number using SS4 form, and you must be title holder. Mark says, get a long form birth certificate which does not have a surname. Precisely. There's your creditor account. Now, if you're born after 1969, they stopped issuing them. So Dad has to do it. Poltergeist. Think poltergeist. Kids lost with the dead. Mum can't get it back. Dad has to come in and pull them in. Dad has to do this. So it's father that has to pull this back. And that's because that's the system's patriarchal. So you feminists out there, you can piss around all day. You go fucking nowhere, we had to fella. You're going fucking nowhere, cock. Apart from into the hands of the subcultures. And there you'll learn all your wind and piss has brought you to zero. The date registered is your date of birth. It's the date of birth, yeah, it is, of the creditor side, yeah. not the day if you were born. Be Your Better Self says, Mark, to rectify the birth date, would you send notice to registrar? Well, what are you rectifying with the registrar? It's already there. You're not rectifying anything on dates. You look at your birth certificate, you've got your born day, and then date registered. That's the day the entity was formed, whether it's the long form or the short form. Yeah, there's a born day you popped out, and the day the trust or the entity was created, the natural person, which is the long form. Common law principle overrides the legislation. Yeah, but you can't use common law if you're going in there on the trust, on the dead trust, can you? You can sit there screaming about it all day. Look, I've done this in the past and lost a fucking lot because I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was mixing up the jurisdictions. This is why I brought into the mix David, can't remember his last name, from Iggs, from Canada. Because what he was presenting and showing you that you cannot mix the jurisdictions because they know you're full of shit. You don't know what you're talking about. As soon as you mix the jurisdictions, they know you haven't got a clue what you're doing. Doctrine of privity of contract, a common law principle, says Andrew Kevin. Common law principle. Yeah, but if you're going to invite common law, you can't be on the dead trust. You can't be going in on the surname. And as I did in the past, you're mixing up the jurisdictions. You're using terms and words and you're mixing it up. You know? And Andrew says that's contradicting itself. What is, Kevin? Andrew, sorry, rather. Legally, is this contract law? It is. What it says, without your consent, it's void. It is, but they're charging you, remember. You've already been deemed guilt-ridden, which is debt. And a contract should always favour the offeree. Well, where have you got that from? How can you have a meeting of minds? It has to be an agreed contract. So it has to mutually benefit both parties to their each satisfaction. So I don't know where you're getting that data from, my good man. You can expand on that if you like. A contract should always favour the offeree. Well, that's... Where in the world are you getting that from? I'd be interested to know who's preaching that stuff. Jerry says, Surname is non-contractable address also, isn't it? Absolutely it is. You cannot contract to serve. It's why they're all going to PO Box. Yet the land registry use a PO Box. The land registry is also a load of garbage. That we did the other week, last week, the other week, made it clear that the land registry is part of this state system that has a state monarch, not a nation monarch, which we haven't had since before Queen Elizabeth. She wasn't a monarch of the country. She was the state monarch, which is invented by the state, which is this parliament that's not the Commons anymore. It's working for this Privy Council, which is run by the aristocracy, the majority of which are bastard lines of the Lennox, well, not just the Lennox family, but Charles II bastard lines. And all, or most, in that sense then, are related to Maria de Medici, which means Camilla is. So we've got a Medici queen. And that's why they're all dancing, these aristocrats. Because they're all operating for the Holy See families. Which is why I've presented the Holy See families as many times as I could in these tunes that I've put there on for you to have a listen to. Interestingly, the tune that I put on at the end of this mix, this live stream, on Wednesday I had 16,000 plays, full plays as well, because it shows me if they only listen to a bit, from the UK. So I've got this system in California that you can go and you can listen to them. You can put some money if you want, but at the moment I'm just promoting it. 16,000 plays it had on Wednesday in across London up to Birmingham. So that's been appreciated, that one. Where are we there? You're using the registration date for the surname, BC. So you're using the registration. Yeah, because that's the date that the entity was created. You were born on a day. A baby. Weren't you? But once this registration game is connected, you're then a child. Because they've fixed your Christian name to the surname. Body corporate and unincorporated. Yeah, it says untitled. Absolutely. Your Christian name is unincorporated and it's in Christ and you're saved. That was what he did. The symbolism of it. And what they do is incorporate it with the surname that they already own or control, or it belongs to the church. Midwives are priestesses of the Vatican. Where are we? How is a marriage contract valid when divorce is legal? Consequences of the contract are not disclosed to those signing it. So all that's happening in a marriage contract, because it used to be in the sight of God, wasn't this is commerce, is the perpetual surname that the Vatican's controlling in this mix between the Rome and the Jewish system is conjoining two surnames. So they just keep pulling them in, and pulling them in, and pulling them in, and pulling them in. And then they want to kill you. Kill the creditor before you wake up. War. Medication. And by whatever other means they can get you, which is what this Third World War is about. This is the final act in killing the creditor, the Christian creditor. Because this system, this debt system, whether it's council, bank, a government, or banks, they owe it your Christian name, they owe it you. Because your Christian name is the credit for it. And we didn't know this. Subliminal confusion. Mark asked for that certificate many times now and never got anywhere. Staff just say never heard of it. Well, they're lying. But they stopped issuing the long form after 1969. Try the hospital. Now, I have a subject access request to put into the hospital. Let you know how that goes. Lex says, is the highway also known as the King's Highway? Yes. We don't have a king, England. It reverts back to the people. We are the sovereign. He isn't the King of England. He's a state king, but he's the King of Scotland. But here on England, he's just a state king with a state parliament. Do you get me? It's not the Commons anymore. That was when it represented us. They're all off to this foreign entity called Charles III. And thus took our state system in his hands. And that's why they're operating to his system. And I'm pretty sure a lot of them are waking up to it now, but they're fucked because they're off to it. We, the people, the sovereign, would have to give amnesty to them all, apart from the ones we know are asswipes. Them, well, English treason law says we hang them. Me personally, just put them in prison for the rest of their life. But if you want to hang them, hang them. I love you. I don't really mind. Where are we? Understanding Maritime Law. Understanding Maritime Law. Download and read the Clerk's Praxis. Download the PDF. Thanks for that, Michael. Jerry says, brilliant on the 16k listen. I know. Excellent, isn't it? In a day. So it obviously got whizzed around everywhere. Just think if I'd have charged £1, that would have been 16 grand richer. Hey! Where are we? Be your better self. Sean, that's what I mean. Registration date isn't on the bank account details. Well, it is if you open the account with it. Go and open an account with that details on. And anything else I've voluntarily given. Well, we voluntarily give our surname, don't we? That's where we do it ourselves, you see. Should this be amended at these places and then they want... Well, they'll just close it. Just open a bank account with that. But, I mean, I don't know how the banks are nowadays, you know. Even if you're coming in with millions, are they going to give you a special deposit account? I don't know. I don't know. Well, if you want to see the BC again, then it should be referenced on the date it was created if you wanted to present it on that entity. But it would only be good doing that on the long form without the surname. If you were doing it on the short form, you're then obviously giving them the date that the dead trust was created. Oh, yeah. Or the incorporation of the surname with your given name. Yeah? Adam says, Michael says, Jerry says, hospital. Yeah. Knights Hospitallers. They are the temples of the Knights Hospitallers, which is a Vatican knightly order. The midwives are the priestesses. The doctors operate for the state. So the midwives are operating for the ecclesiastical, the Vatican. Priestesses. So they're evil. You might call them super nuns. You know. But in this mimic system that they've pushed over the old church that looked after your Christian name. You're getting it a bit more now. You're starting to understand the Vatican and why they've been smashing it to pieces for 1,000 years. This is why they reformed we had the Reformation, you see. They had to destroy it. They had to kick something off that took a big chunk of Catholics away from the church and into the hands of this Jewish system so they could come and join it. And there's your Reformation, your Protestants, you see. That's what happened. They created empire and everything from it, which you wouldn't have been able to do if you were still acting under Christ's name. You couldn't do it, which is your Christian name. A marriage certificate is inviting the state into a three-way relationship trust. Of course, but you're already in it. Your mum and dad are already in it, remember, when you pop out. It's your mum that deposits the baby or informs. Adam says, as a father who has been kept off the birth certificate by the mother, I request my son's long-form birth certificate. If so, is that through the registry office or is the entry in a family Bible sufficient? See, how did she manage to keep it off? I don't know, actually. You might have a claim there, but you'd have to probably get a paternity test. I don't know how that works because the record is made. Now, would it have to be corrected? I don't know, Adam, to be honest. I can't really help you there. If anybody else is aware of that kind of gig, can we give our mate here, Adam, a lift? Put your email address up, Adam, and somebody might get back to you on that. But unfortunately, I can't claim to understand and to know how that would pan out, to be honest. But don't give up. But a paternity test would prove the fatherhood of it. So then I'm sure the record would have to be corrected. Be your better self. How do we get past that bit? They want some proof of date of birth. Well, you're really going to struggle after 1969, aren't you? Which is why it's up to father. So if your dad's thick as fuck and pisshead, you need to start getting him off the piss and educating him quick. You've got 4.5 months. Unless something happens in here with this Vatican thing and it gets taken back. That's a possibility. And or we can put something in this mix here on England to fuck it. Doesn't the bank require it? No, it's voluntary, a national insurance number for a bank account. Now, it was. I don't know what it is now. I haven't opened a bank account for, 30 years? Mew says, when I returned from Holland, I had a right job trying to get a bank account. I took my mother and my brother threatened to leave the bank, which I had sent my Dutch account to. Why? Why, Mew? Be your better self. Definitely need to go see someone higher up in the bank to take these details too with the entry. And BC then. You see, like I said, it's so long since I opened a bank account. I don't know what they're doing nowadays, but it was always voluntary if you put your national insurance number on, you know. LFX says, co-inside, hence coincidence, inside job. Yep. Adam says, I've got a paternity test. So you've got a paternity test, right. So what you'd probably need is a court to rule. And they would then instruct the registrar to correct the record. That would be my suggestion, unless anybody else knows better. Right, so then you've got the evidence now that you are the father. Now you have rights there then. Primogeniture and all that malarkey. That's common law. Never say corrected. It's always an amendment. Well, I use the word corrected because they use the word correct or incorrect instead of wrong or right. So I take your point, Stephen, but I'm not so sure that it would cause a problem. If you know more, let me know. But I use the word corrected, correct the record. Though I have just sent in an amendment notice. So I have used that term also. Because when you look at amendments, it's clear that it's to change a document or change a ledger. Title, Be Your Better Self, date of birth, date of business, registration date. LFX rather, marriage times marriage. Okay. Be Your Better Self, Dad has passed. I have the entry long form. Okay, I need to backtrack on what you've said. Be Your Better Self. What have you said? What question did you ask? Just to rectify the birth date, would you send notice to registrar? So when you say rectify, no, because it's recorded that way already. You would have to decide not to use your day you were born anymore when you were doing things, but to use the date that the record was registered, which is the date of the registration, not the date of birth. So there's nothing to correct at the registry, if you know what I mean. So if your dad's passed, have you received a letter of probate, his estate being put into probate? Dime boy, admin, I'd reckon it's a N244 with statement of facts notary with the paternity test at High Court. Thanks for that, Dime boy. So that might be of help to you. N244, statement of facts notary with the paternity test at a High Court. Okay, that's thank you for that. Mew says they just wouldn't let me open an account. Fraud was quoted. Oh, had they done a fraud on your behalf, Mew? Or were they claiming you had? LFX, which birthday constable? I'm not getting that one, LFX. Adam says, I have an account with full power of attorney. I got when I worked for the bank many years ago. But they can't do anything with it, including outside forces gaining access. So when you say you got an account, was that a special deposit account? Adam. Because that's what you need. A special deposit account keeps it outside of the realm of a general deposit account. So you've done well there then if you've got that. Very well indeed, actually. And if you've got assets, you might consider setting up a trust with that account as well. Now that double secures everything you've got, so title deeds for your home, etc. So well done, Adam. Very well done indeed. It'd be nice if you could send me an email. If somebody will put my email account up of how you did that. That would be very well received, sir, if you would do that. So will somebody put me email up? Oh, I can do it. Wait a minute. I can do it. I forget. I keep forgetting. Oh shit, I don't know where that at is. It's not there. Hey, it's not working. Oh no, because I'm doing idiot. Right. It's confusing having two computers. So it's live in the mix at 22 at yahoo.com. Adam, I would be very ingratiated if you could let me know the best way to do that. Thank you. Jerry says, they may ask for back money once you become legal father. True. Child support payment system will want its pound of flesh for doing the right thing. Well, if she's past 18, no, because mum didn't present him as father. So no, I don't think they could actually. I don't think they could do that. Long form, says Mark. Yep, that's the important one. The registrar holds you in custody, exactly. If bailiffs come and they say, you bloody much, oh, he's in custody. What do you mean? Well, you try registrar. You haven't told them any lies. The person they're looking for is in the custody of the registrar. Mupit says fraud prevention, Sean. Did they not give you a reason? Surely they had to give you a reason on that. Or is that just the reason, fraud prevention? You've got one now, I take it, though. Adam says, no one can access it, including government agents. That's my trust account. Exactly, that's what we're all trying to get. But it's called a special deposit account, isn't it? Well, you're not lending it to the bank. It's yours. But yeah, I mean, if you could give me an heads up on that, my friend, it would be really appreciated. Maybe I can swap some information that might help you a little bit. Mew says, i.e. drug money laundering, but growing weed was legal in Holland. Somebody telling tales where they in the old China. All right. Dime Boy says, a live birth certificate is super difficult in the UK. Get copy of mother's medical records as a substitute. The entry is just a record of an event, so it doesn't need correcting. Exactly. You can't... Well, yeah. I don't know how it would work. I really don't. If you're being pulled in as father, I don't know what would happen. I am the lawful guardian, hence the family Bible entry. Okay, so you've got the flea bag. Right, that's okay then. Well, try out having a look at that N244 and see, you just by reading through what it wants in there, you probably work out whether that's the form you're actually looking for. Because in many cases, you look at these forms and they're pretty self-explanatory. They're telling you what it is. Although I have to say, when you look at US or you look at Canada, they're very simple forms and they do basically tell you exactly what they do. Whereas in UK, they get a bit meandering and it's like hard to it's a lot more difficult. It's such a shit country, this UK, this system. It's so secretive, so subversive. It's everything's 20 times harder here than it is over in the US or Canada. Australia's not doing right well, but they came out of the system quite a long time ago. Child Act 1989, Section 2, Subsection 4, removed the father. But you don't want to be lawful guardian, you want to be father. Guardian's their term. You want to be father, because then primogeniture's in. The guardian and all that, that's their terms. But yeah, maybe have a look at that N244 and see if it's looking like it's going to satisfy what it is you need. Jerry says the fraud prevention was used to prevent criminal activities. You naughty boy. Can't you tell he's an house scouser? I was in the gym this last couple of weeks, and so Aki Stanley, the football team, have started to use it. And the old pal in, and they're lovely lads, I'll give them that. And I thought we were bloody scousers. I thought Aki Stanley team were scousers. I felt like I was in Liverpool. It's Accrington Stanley. Who are they? It's hard, isn't it? So true, USA is easier for most things. Yeah, they didn't muck about, did they, when they were right? When you could tell they were a separate thing. But this place, it's always trying to trip you up. Michael Jr. says you would have to use the interest off the special deposit account. Keep a distance from the fiat currency. So you can't go wrong with Swiss franc. You can't go wrong with the Singapore dollar. You don't have to hold the pound sterling. You don't want to be holding the pound when it's got fiction there in Scotland on it. I've been thinking in these terms as it is. I've got some Iraqi dinar, and that's slowly going up, but they still haven't done what they've got to do. Be Your Better Self says, I'd be interested to know how the bank account was obtained too. Many thanks. June, it's the British Union making everything harder as they have buried our rights, Sean. You're right, and because we've been under the Jewish system since the Civil War. That's what the Civil War did. It completely removed us from the Christian side and monarch and put us directly under the Venetian moneylenders. Yeah. Well, under the guise of criminal activities, nosy bastards. And on that bombshell, ladies and gentlemen, I'll say thanks for joining, especially given the old bag of wind game we're on. Let's hope we get some sun this week. And I'll see you. Till the next time.
electronic engineering, electronic engineering, electronic engineering.